For the final video of our Fact or Facade series to establish which house actually does have the longest facade in Britain, we visit Wentworth Woodhouse in South Yorkshire.
Yes, Wentworth Woodhouse, it's a really interesting story really, in that there was quite obviously a real effort when the family stopped living in the house, the Fitzwilliam family stopped living in the house, to try and give it a new purpose. So hence it being converted into a college and surviving in use as a college into the late 1980s. And I mean, that was really, really important to allow for the preservation of the house at all, in that it could have been so easily lost during that period. Country houses were being demolished at a rate of one a week or something like that in the 1950s. And Wentworth Woodhouse survived, and it was that college use which was so important to it.
In the late 1980s, Wentworth Woodhouse and 83 acres of gardens was put on the open market for sale for the very first time. Sheffield Hallam University had given up the lease to use the house and stables for educational purposes, and the family decided that the time to finally sell the property had arrived.
It then went through 2 periods of private ownership, which just showed how really use as a single dwelling was perhaps unrealistic for a house on the scale of Wentworth Woodhouse, at least starting from scratch, you know, without inheriting it with vast amounts of acres. And so actually when the trust came along and took on the ownership of the house, it was fantastic. It was a fantastic thing to happen. And actually what it has shown in the last few years of trust ownership is how a place like this can position itself in the current day and find a purpose. And it just goes to show how, you know, there's a real appetite for places which are really incredibly beautiful places, but also offer something so different and offer sort of space and an opportunity for people to enjoy the place, but also to volunteer, to make something of the place and to make it their own. And you know, it was really quite touch and go a few years ago. So I mean, it was so fantastic that this should happen, and that we've got the opportunity to sort of carry Wentworth Woodhouse forward, you know, I hope for another few hundred years if we get it right.
It's no surprise that there are at least 3 country houses laying claim to be the longest in the UK. I thought it was going to be a simple case of taking a measurement and giving you a decision, but it's not. Just like the people that built them are the wonderful people who are looking after them now. They're multi-layered, complicated, and they take a bit of getting to know. But unlike the people looking after the buildings, these houses are two-faced. They got front doors on both sides. At Hopetoun, the east front by William Bruce is fantastic, but the Adam family trumped him, and particularly Robert Adam, because it's the Adam frontage facing Edinburgh that you see from the long approach that is undoubtedly the main face of the building. Stowe not only has one of the most important and beautiful country houses in the UK, actually in Europe, but it also lays claim to be the home of English garden design. It's where Capability Brown cut his teeth. Now, Robert Adam, again, was brought in to design the front of the house to the garden. That is the main front of Stowe. Wentworth Woodhouse's later east front is undoubtedly its main frontage, despite the fact that the west face into the gardens is of equal architectural importance. But this front was designed for show. That's where the main facade will lie.
So the business model for Wentworth is a mixed-use model, and the reasons for that is to make sure that we've got something that is sustainable in the longer term. As a visitor attraction, obviously, that's extremely seasonal. So the mixed-use model allows us to have a visitor attraction, but to also counterbalance that with other uses that provide income in the off-season, off-visitor season. So ultimately at Wentworth, what you'll see is a world-class visitor destination with gallery space showing great art, great furniture, and great digital work as well. But there will also be the other supportive visitor services there, so the cafes, bars, restaurants, that kind of thing. Office lets, overnight accommodation, and a major education centre here too. So I'm really proud of everything that we've achieved at Wentworth Woodhouse over the last 6 years. It's been an incredible team effort, and I think that, it is not down to one person. It really is truly down to an incredible team of people. So to me, that's something that, I hold really dear and that I'm incredibly proud of. But I think if you were to ask me what is our USP when we're looking at other country houses or other sites within the heritage sector, I would say where we really stand out is on our work with young people. We do incredible education programs here, which we're receiving awards for now, really innovative ideas and innovative programs. But I think it's particularly the work we do in our digital department with young people that really stands us out from the rest of the crowd. And that's because most of the young people who participate in that come to us with no interest really whatsoever in heritage or even history. But they come to us through the digital programme. They learn incredible skills, both life skills and technical skills. They have a wonderful experience. And what we see time and time again is these people changing as they go through the programme, from young people with no interest into mature young people who are going out into the world with a real love of heritage and history and a real love of Wentworth. And that's come because this location has been a place that has changed their lives, that has really transported them onto a pathway into employment or a pathway into a new career or new experiences. And what that gives them initially, primarily, is those skills, but secondary, it gives them a love of heritage and history, and it gives them an understanding of what heritage and history and place really means. So I think being able to see that transition of people, of young people, is what makes me most proud, and I think is what makes us really unique in what we're doing.
In 6 short years, which included several periods of lockdown during the COVID pandemic, the Wentworth Woodhouse Preservation Trust have embarked upon a journey designed to secure a sustainable future for the whole site.
As a multi-use, multi-occupancy venue, Wentworth Woodhouse is committed to a multi-million-pound 25-year regeneration programme to bring the huge areas of largely derelict buildings back into use to help regenerate the local economy. In addition to the staff at Wentworth Woodhouse, a team of over 300 volunteers work at every level within the organisation, from the Board of Trustees to the gardeners and cleaners. Since 2018, our volunteer teams have contributed around 140,000 hours of their time in support of the Trust goals.
It's an enormous challenge, but just how enormous is the facade of Wentworth Woodhouse? Tony and his trundle wheel are back at work taking the definitive measurement.
Here at Wentworth Woodhouse, the east front is clearly the longest frontage of the house. It completely dwarfs the garden-facing west front. On November the 3rd, 2023, we were joined by a team from the BBC, who were also keen to find out whether or not Wentworth Woodhouse could retain its claim to the coveted title. As the BBC cameras rolled, and those of the volunteer digital team at Wentworth Woodhouse who've made this documentary, we celebrated the fact that there were no losers on the day. After Tony completed his task, He was joined by Sarah MacLeod and a host of volunteers, staff and visitors to the house, over 160 people in total, who lined up in front of our famous east front. It was an impressive display, but it only just covered the main section of the mansion and a small part of the north and south wings. We'd need about twice as many people to cover the entire facade.
So the first thing to do is to decide which of the two faces of the building are the main frontages that contain the principal facade. That's what you've asked me to decide. So then what I had to decide was, within these principal frontages, what is the facade, the main architectural feature of each of these fantastic buildings. At Hopetoun, the Adam frontage includes the stables and the library on either side, linked by quadrants to the main house. And I really don't think we could include the stables within the principal architectural element of the house within the facade. So the main facade at Hopetoun is the central house. Stowe similarly has quadrants linking pavilions, but not on the Adam face. And within this face is the principal facade. It's the central building, the linking wings, and the 2 and 3-storey pavilions. Wentworth Woodhouse is more straightforward. The whole thing was designed for show. The central building, the wings, the lovely pavilions at the end with their lanterns, designed by one, and that is a facade. So, here's my decision. Hopetoun has the longest frontage. It includes garden walls at either end. That's not building, but it is frontage. And that measures about 657 feet. Stowe is the longest building, if we include the more or less symmetrical 2-storey wings either side. And that comes in at 638 feet. Finally, Wentworth Woodhouse has the longest facade, and that measures about 618 feet. But you know, it doesn't really matter. These are 3 amazing country houses, built in fantastic landscape, being looked after by wonderful people. And everybody watching this should just go and see them. It's been a joy and a privilege to get to know them a bit more and to find out a bit more about our joint history.